Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and after many requests, I thought it was about time to give you guys a tour of the Home Built garage. So I'm sure you've all seen plenty of my videos all through the garage, but I thought I'd give you a tour of actually the whole garage itself and give you a few details and maybe a few little hints about things that are coming along might be able to be seen by some of those eagle-eyed viewers. So to start with, it's basically just a tin shed. I actually did the weatherboards on the front of it myself just to match in with the house, but basically it's a tin shed with a fake timber facade on the front. Let's have a look. So a lot of you have probably already seen the videos, but maybe not have a full idea of the layout. I get lots of comments, people coming here for the first time, having a look around, and they don't actually understand where everything is. But I'll take you through it all now. But the basic dimensions of the garage, it's 7 meters wide by 12 meters deep. And it's 2.7 meters to the eave, so I should have made it a little bit taller. It would have been easier, better for the hoist, but that's the size I made it back when I made it. And it's about as big as I could fit it on this block, and it's still not big enough because, as any of you know, it's never big enough. But the basic layout, if I give it, I've got my welding bench on this side over here. My working area is on the right-hand side at the front here. On the left, I have my hoist, and obviously at the moment I've got the Datsun and the 911 that's still up above. And then in the back, on the back right, I've got my booth. On the back left is my engine building room. So let's start going through now, and I'll sort of take you through some of the bits and pieces in the garage. Okay, so as we move around, one of the things you'll notice throughout the garage is I have these hooks with extension leads already connected up and powered on, so I just need to pick up an extension lead and run it out into the workshop and they're ready to go. But as I come around, the door through to the house is just here, and then right next to the door I have my charging station, so I remember to charge everything as I go. So I've got all the camera batteries here. These are the batteries for the microphone I keep forgetting to turn on, and my light up here, so that's all sort of there, and of course fire extinguisher and random buckets of alpha stuff and boots and things. I'm definitely not the tidiest, but you guys may have seen that already in my videos. A lot of people have been asking about the Datsun. The Datsun is actually sold. A really nice guy named Marcel has bought it in the US. He flew over for 3 days, and it's just awaiting shipment, so it no longer belongs to me, so I haven't been driving it, haven't been using it. I'm paranoid, I don't want to drive it, I don't want anything to happen to it because it's not mine. 911 you guys all know about, and that is getting close to being done. The engine is coming along nicely. And obviously the new addition to the garage, the 996, is sitting in here nicely, but the hoist has made a huge difference to the garage and how I work. It's made things so much easier. I highly recommend if you have the ability to fit one in your garage. They're not expensive on the scheme of things anymore. They're relatively affordable, and I think it's really worthwhile. Okay, so moving back past the Datsun, you can see over here, again, I've got the power cord set up. This is a 15 amp power point, this particular one, so that powers the hoist, and this is the power for my welders, because they can only run off of 15 amps. This trolley, just a simple trolley I got off of Super Cheap, but I find that really good as a working trolley, so I go and have all my parts that I'm using for the day in that trolley, and then hopefully at the end of the day I go in and I put all the stuff away. Now, lots of you will have seen my tool chest, and this is getting filled up. You can see a lot of the stickers and stuff you guys have sent me, so if you want to send any of that through, you can send it through to the Home Built by Jeff PO Box. I'll put the address up on the screen here, and you can see some of the cool stuff that some of the guys sent me over the time. There's some cool fun bits and pieces up here, and lots of stickers from all around the world, so please send stuff through if you want to see it on the channel. Now, lots of people are asking me about the toolbox and my layout, and one of the big things I'm a fan of with all my toolboxes, I do it with most of my stuff, is labeling it. So I can just go to the drawers, because even though it's my toolbox, I'm using it every day, but it's still easy to just go, oh yeah, that's the drawer I want. So, you know, this one's punches, pickup tools and pliers. It gives you an overview of what's here. So it's a bit of a mess, but yeah, there's a bunch of sort of pliers and things in here. Clips and grommets. So I've got, you know, a bunch of packets of grommets that I got just cheap eBay stuff. Plastic clips and dress up bits for the cars. So that's all in that drawer. Yeah, oil wrenches, picks, punches, files, they're all in there. Lapping tool for valves. Spanners, got my spanners all laid out in here. Everything pretty much is metric or shifters. I don't really have any Imperial stuff. All the cars I work in are all in metric, thankfully, because Imperial, my little brain doesn't handle Imperial. I do have a few Imperial sockets. This is an old socket set that I got for my 18th birthday, and it's still kicking. It's actually got a lifetime warranty, and I've used it a couple of times, and most of it's there at the moment. And yeah, so other sort of bits of socket sets, big impact sockets, and torque wrenches and bits and pieces. This one is measuring tools. So in here, I've got verniers, I've got a small micrometer, scales, dial indicators, rulers, just all that sort of stuff, thermometer. This one's my hammers. So hammers and dollies and all metalworking stuff is all in this drawer here. Grinders and sort of grinding media, you know, sanding disc with a finger sander and roll lock wheels and that sort of stuff, wire wheels, that's all in there. And then the bigger stuff down the bottom, sort of the stuff I don't use as often, the circ saw, heat gun, other drills and routers and stuff like that are in there. Moving across, gas, butane torches, sanders and stuff like that in there. This drawer is, I use a lot. It basically has a lot of boxes of sort of nuts and bolts, and I top these up whenever they get low, and I use this all the time. It's so nice to go and just get nice, neat, new nuts and bolts, and not expensive, and it makes life so much nicer when you've got the new stuff there. And this here is my riv nut tool. I love that tool, but yeah, lots of just random nuts and bolts and stuff in here, and well worth having a good selection of them to keep you going. Tapes, glue guns, all that sort of stuff in there. Selection of air tools. Screwdrivers. AN tools and a box of different springs. I found this quite handy. Again, just a cheap eBay purchase, but a bunch of different size springs. Just comes in handy having some of this stuff on hand. When you need it, it's nice to just have it there. This is Allen keys and you know, little bits and pieces of fittings. Last of all, staple guns. It's a big mess, but staple guns, razor blades, spare staples, and lots of permanent markers and stuff like that, pens and pencils. And then up on top, I just have sort of my gloves, sort of a bunch of different safety glasses and sort of cleaning supplies and stuff like that up there. So that keeps me going around. And then moving around behind here, we come around, I've got my lift table. This is quite a handy thing, and this will be getting used soon, not just being used for storage, but being used to put the 911 engine back into the 911. So that's in there. And I found what was quite handy was I was running out of wall space. So in behind the toolbox here, I just sort of have some old sheets of plywood and things like that are using wall space there. That worked quite well. And then sitting this on this angle here, instead of sitting against the wall, it gives me sort of a bit more space and creates a room in the back here for my engine work. And starting over here, you can see the nice polished bell mounds that are going on the 911. I'm really looking forward to that. My basic toolbox, tool bag, that's if I've got to do any handyman type stuff, I just grab that and it's got a whole bunch of tools in it ready to go, and sort of a selection of nuts and screws and bolts and stuff like that. Old spray guns. It's got a collection of sort of Loctite and WD-40 and bits and pieces there. This bench here is one I made, and currently it's got my sort of ECU and electrical gear on it because I've been working on the wiring on the 911. But I made this bench deliberately nice and tall so that underneath it had no shelves, so I could put all my rolling stuff underneath. So I'm using it less for that stuff now, but it still often has my welder under here. You can see the vacuum cleaner and sort of the diesel heater, lots of sort of stuff used, good storage under there without having shelves on it, because I've got enough shelves. It needed height for stuff that I can roll and put under there. Originally I had my lawnmower and things like that under there, because otherwise it just sort of sits in a corner and takes up a lot of room. That way I could get it underneath a bench and out of the way. And then of course over the top I built my wood rack. So it's got a lot of sort of trim pieces. This is all for sort of interior carpentry stuff that when I was building the house. But I deliberately built it just tall enough for me. So it's I'm only 5'8", and that's my height, that I can walk under it with any shoes on and not hit my head. But it's also easy. I can just reach up and grab. I don't need a ladder. I can just grab anything off of it. So it's just a perfect height for me. Anybody taller, watch out. Moving along, sort of boxes of parts for the 911, lots of sort of random engine parts and things, and sort of my engine building books and a bit of wiring loom stuff along here, an old toolbox, which I don't even know what's in it anymore. The press in the corner, that is quite a handy piece of gear to have. Again, it's a simple thing that really makes a big difference, having a workshop that's set up nicely. Moving along, I've got a range of these black super cheap cabinets down the back, and they're quite handy. This one here, it's full of paint. So it's got all my my paints and thinners and things like that all stored up in the back here. And then the middle one has all my sandpapers, all my body filler and sanding sort of implements, and then going down it's got all my spray cans and bits and pieces like that, and just rags and stuff down the bottom there. This M1, all my tapes, and then a bunch of different sort of box tools, old radios and polishing gear and stuff down the bottom. And then moving around from the cabinets, from up above the cabinets, we have boxes of sort of stuff, bits and pieces that have been stored away. This is my sheet metal press folder roller. Fantastic addition to the workshop. A lot of these things, I'll put links to the description down below if you're interested in having a look at some of this stuff. I'll see if I get a pretty extensive look at things going on down under there. And underneath it still is the engine. This is the 2-litre engine out of the Alpha and the original gearbox. It's not seized, but it is for sale. I need to get rid of it. It's just taking up floor space. So if anybody's after a 2-litre Alpha engine and gearbox, I have them here for sale. So contact me if you're looking for something like that. Old bonnet from my airbrushing days behind there. That was off of my my Skyline. Okay, so I'm not sure of the timeline of this, on whether this video has gone up before the air compressor box or not, but I built myself the air compressor box out the back of the garage so that I don't have to take up space inside. And those air lines come in on the blue line in here into the regulator, and then they tee off, and one hose goes through and goes into the hose reel in the booth, and the other hose goes along the booth down to the end and to the hose reel on the end there. So I have 2 hose reels that is connected up all the time, ready to go, and I can just grab the hose reel, drag it out, and air is ready to go. It's fantastic having this stuff ready to use. Coming around, I've got my door for my booth. So as you can see, I've got my booth up here. I've got all my sort of extractor fans and things like that set up there. My paint bench here for where I'm mixing all my paint and that sort of stuff. And underneath the paint bench, I've got my sort of, it's a rolling box with all of my cordless tools just sort of chucked in there, and trolley jack sort of wedged underneath that. I've got my my old cabinet, the one that I airbrushed a while ago. Here, this one contains sort of a bunch of old house stuff up the top there. All of my electrical gear in there, and a lot of storage for parts. This is where I often store parts for jobs that are coming up and things like that, and tiling, grout, that sort of stuff, all sort of stuffed in down the bottom. Next to that, I have a ladder just sitting here that I can pull out, and I can get up on top of the booth for the storage, which is quite handy to have a ladder spare there ready to go. And sandblasting cabinet, again, ready to go. I can just grab the air line from the hose reel right there, bring it down, connect up the cabinet, and I'm ready to go. And straight next to that is the parts washing bay, so that's right here. So everything is sort of ready to go right here next to the end of the booth. So the layout of the booth itself, Those of you might have seen the videos of me building it, but I just built it, just sort of put it all together myself. It's a plywood wall, so it's nice and robust, and also it can handle the floor being wet. It's not going to damage the timbers. It's also got these, I just made bifold doors from regular internal house doors, one with a glass panel on it. Painted it nice and bright white, and I just have LEDs going around the outside. Welder is in here. Have the hoist with the Ferrari engine waiting to go into the Alpha engine bay. That's going to be fun. And the airline's in there, ready to go all the time, and dust extraction up the top there. Moving around, might be some hints as to what to come along down in here, and more hints of stuff in here. What is this? Oh, does anyone know what that is? Something from Raceworks, I'll give you the hint. More parts around here. Lots of parts storage for a lot of things that are coming up on the channel for these builds. It takes a while to build these things. And around this far side of the booth, there's enough room for some trestles and stuff. I've actually got a mount on the wall for these folding trestles, so they're up out of the way. And tucked behind the door is the masking machine, which is a fantastic piece of gear. I bought it many, many years ago. And if you're doing masking on a car, it makes life so much easier. Coming around next to the booth, we have a couple more ladders. We have the gearbox for the car and my bin. A lot of my sort of house renovating stuff is around here. They're all boxed up and labelled as to what they are. This one's, painting, brushes, etc. Carpentry tools, electrical switches, and everything's all labelled, ready to go. Plastering, tiling. So stereo is right here with easy access. So when I'm listening to the radio and filming, I can go over, turn it down, stop, talk, then go back, turn it up again, and then start filming and doing the work, and then start, stop all the time. Quick access to the radio, particularly in this situation, is well worthwhile. Coming around now, we're sort of getting through to the metalwork side of the workshop. The belt sander and stuff is here. You've got the bead roller and the shrinker stretcher and stuff all stored on the shelf here. Coming around to my welding bench, which has got my vise, nice 6mm steel bench top, so I can bash away to my heart's content on it. It probably shouldn't have the wood rack underneath, but it does. I'm actually going to be clearing out this bay on the end here of the wood rack. That's all going to be cleared out and all moved into this end, so I can store my welder, etc. under there. So it's easier access, and I don't have to cart it from all the way in the back corner of the workshop every time. Above the bench, I've got tapes that are quick and easy to get to here, and a bunch of safety gear on pegs all the way along the top underneath. And on the back, I've got buffs, grinders, zip ties ready to go, chargers, and then I've got my drill press and that sort of stuff. Quick access to cleaning gear, always worthwhile. Bunch of drill bits sort of chucked away in the corner. I'm definitely not the cleanest around. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was something a little bit different. I've had, as I've said, I've had a few requests, so let me know if you like that sort of video, and whether it's actually giving you a bit more of an idea of how the layout of the garage is and bits and pieces. It's definitely not the cleanest thing in the world, and I am far from the cleanest worker in the world, but it's doing the job quite nicely, and I'm getting things sorted out so that it's sort of trying to make it easier to work and quicker and simpler, and I'm trying to keep it cleaner, so that's my goal moving forward. And I have links to a bunch of different things that I've had in this video, so you guys can go and have a look if you're interested. If you're after any Porsche parts, make sure you go to PorschePartsByJeff.com and compare prices there first. Always worthwhile, lots of sales on, and it can save you heaps and find really odd stuff. I have done it quite a few times. All right, guys, thanks as always, and I'll see you next time. See ya.